The San Jose Sharks have now entered their fun and frisky phase of their rebuild.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Locked On NHL. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And today we're going to be talking about the Sharks starting to exit their rebuild and become a fun and frisky team. We'll break down what that actually means for them and what that more importantly means for their short-term and long-term future. Plus, we'll discuss Mario Ferraro's season-ending injury, what that means for both the Sharks and the Barracuda as we enter the last stretch of games here. So before we get to all that, do want to let you guys know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So the kind of life cycle of teams, and I think I did this episode like 3 years ago, which was, like looking at where teams are at, kind of like, because, not every NHL team or not every sports team is in the same place, right? And I've kind of categorized it. And if you're a longtime Locked On Sharks fan, you've heard me mention a lot of these names before. And I think for the Sharks right now, we are at the precipice of kind of moving up a level. So just as a kind of a reminder, like the way I kind of categorize it, right? At the very top, right, you have your Stanley Cup contenders. These are like your Avs, your Stars, like the best teams in the league, right? The teams that you can legitimately see winning the Stanley Cup. And like these are teams that have been successfully building. They're in a win now mode. They're willing to trade off assets to get players that are going to help them now. Like you know what a Stanley Cup contender is. Like these are the teams that you fully expect to be there at the end. And of course, the Sharks were in that life cycle for a while, right? You specifically think of like that kind of 2016 through 2019 run where they were a Stanley Cup contender, right? They got to a Stanley Cup final. They got to a Western Conference final. Like they were a team that if things went a little bit differently, right? We would have talked about the Sharks as a potential Cup winner. Below that, these are your kind of like your playoff contenders. These are teams that are good, but like maybe not quite ready to kind of make that jump. And you look at a team like, I think like the Ottawa Senators, right? Senators finally made their big jump this year, right? Making the playoffs. Like, would you be surprised if they maybe won a round, shock somebody? No. Would you be surprised if they made it to the Cup final? Yeah, I think it's fair to say, like, you would be pretty surprised and pretty shocked if the Sens made it to the Cup finals, but that still doesn't mean like you're not, this is like a very good team with a core, and they've all been kind of building together, right? You've seen them be aggressive in trading assets at the trade deadline, et cetera, but maybe not quite ready to get over the hump quite yet and be one of those teams. So, there's a bunch of those type of teams, like all like scattered throughout the league. The next, and my favorite term, the creamy middle, right? These are the teams, and I argue it is the worst place to be in sports. And these are usually like your directionless teams. And I can't think of a team more creamy middle than the New York Islanders, right? A team that is like they just kind of want to get in the playoffs every year, be like pick 15th, get in the playoffs. One of the like they don't really have a plan long term. That's kind of what that type of team is. I would also maybe argue like the Vancouver Canucks, a little bit of a creamy middle team where you don't really know what they are. Like last year, they were a good a good team, but was that an aberration, or are they just kind of a team that's stuck with where they're at? Worst place to be in sports, because Sharks used to be the right after. This is where the Sharks were from 2020 to until Mike Grier got here, was a creamy middle team where not fully committed one way to rebuilding or one way to try to win again, or at least a path to being a winning type of team. You have the rebuild team, right? And that's where the Sharks have been it's basically since Mike Grier got here. And I think it really signified the Timo Meier trade was the kickoff of this is the rebuild, right? We're going to burn it down. We're going to start from scratch. We're going to, as many young players, as many young assets. We're going to lose a ton of games, right? But the hope is we're going to slowly and surely build this thing up. Right? The Sharks are here. The Blackhawks are here. You could argue some other teams are maybe getting ready to enter this. If you talk about depends what the Bruins want to do, depends what Nashville wants to do. They're right. We know who kind of rebuilding teams are. But then your next phase, right, is once you exit your rebuild, you become a fun and frisky team. And this is where I argue the Sharks are about ready to join, is a fun and frisky team. These are teams that are still right, they're not ready to compete, but they're kind of taking that next step of just being a more competitive team. Maybe you don't win the playoff. You're not going to make the playoffs, but you're at least going to be kind of, as our friends at Locked On Canadians, you're in the mix, right? You're officially in the mix. And I think actually the Canadians are a perfect fun and frisky team, right? A team that has been going through a rebuild. They've acquired a lot of young players. And now you're starting to see the fruits of that efforts. And yes, I know the Canadians are, almost a lock at this point to make the playoffs, but still I still think they're kind of in their fun and frisky phase, of building. The Anaheim Ducks, fun and frisk. They've officially entered their fun and frisky phase, right? They're probably going to be picking 8th, 9th, 10th. The Utahns, fun and frisky phase of their rebuild. And I would argue the Sharks are on the precipice of joining that fun and frisky phase. And yes, they're probably going to lose out here, and most likely, they're, as I'm recording this, the tragic number is 3. So that is basically a Sharks loss, Sharks regulation loss, and a Sharks loss in overtime, and the Sharks clinch the best odds for the draft. And yes, this season has been a rebuild, but I still think the Sharks are on that ready to jump into a fun and frisky team. Right, we talk about the vibes all the time with this team, with Macklin, Celebrini, and Will Smith, and how this team has really, especially compared to last year, right? Yeah, they've won a handful of games more than they did last year, but it just feels the direction feels like there's a direction, right? And you have your pieces kind of in place with Macklin, Celebrini, with Will Smith, with William Macklin. You have guys coming in the pipeline. You know where the direction of this team is. But I think more importantly, you've also done the hard work of clearing out old contracts, clearing up cap space. The Sharks have one of, if not the cleanest salary caps in the league. The retention slots are the only bad part, and you're going to get one of those back here at some point. And honestly, the Sharks aren't going to need to retain player anymore. Maybe if they want to do something at the trade deadline, but still it's not going to be they're trying to move off of big contracts. All their big contracts are just about cycled out at this point, right? You have Logan Couture, who's seems like he's done with hockey, and you have Vlasic, who's entering the last year of his contract, and you need that $15 million combined to hit the salary cap floor, because again, as a quick reminder, the Sharks need to spend close to $20 million in cap space just to comfortably hit the salary cap floor this offseason. So, but I do think the style of play from the Sharks, the pieces that are in place, I think they're going to hit they're on the door of being a fun and frisky team. So we'll talk more about what that means, and more importantly, what that means for Mike Greer this summer, and why, again, the Sharks the Sharks have to be aggressive this offseason. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get on the action. Right now, you can join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet. You get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting super easy, whether it's picking your favorite team, go Warriors, or diving into player props. Steph Curry hitting threes feels like a fun thing to root for. So, and making some money while Steph Curry hits threes, I don't know what can get better. Plus, great thing is after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into same game parlays for a chance to win big. So, if Steph Curry starts heating up, what I just can't think of a better time when watching basketball. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. All right, before we continue, we talk about why the Sharks are going to be fun and frisky. Do want to, of course, thank you guys for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. If you haven't yet, perfect time to hit that subscribe button. I'll pause and wait. Thank you. Hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, get the notifications. That way you know when new episodes are dropping. And if you're listening on Apple, nice time to leave your review as well, especially as we hit off-season mode. Off-season mode is where we shine here at Locked On Sharks, especially, again, when you have $40 million of cap space and most likely the number one pick, or at least probably a top 2 pick in this draft. Plenty of fun stuff to talk about. So, make sure you follow along wherever you get podcasts. And, of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Okay, so the Sharks are entering their fun and frisky phase because that's just the next natural spot in their life cycle, right? You've done all the hard work, right, of clearing out the old stuff, getting rid of the garbage, getting rid of bad contracts. You've drafted and you've been developing. You're starting to see the fruits of that labor, right? Namely, Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini. You have, projecting ahead into next season, right? You're going to have Yaroslav Askarov, who's ready. You've spent nice pieces to acquire. I know he's dealt with some injuries this year, but when he's been on the ice, he has been all that you could ask for more. Go watch the last Barracuda game, and he 1-0 shutout Askarov, right? So you have Askarov, who you expect to be good, right? He's been playing the last couple seasons in the AHL. Maybe not a full Dustin Wolf type performance next season, but it's going to be better than what you've had, right? Like it can't get worse, right? Between Kakinen and Vitek Vanacek and Gorgiev, no offense to those guys. Askarov's better. And we saw this season when Askarov played, he was just better than those guys, right? So you're going to have Askarov. You have Macklin Celebrini on the second year of his contract. You have Will Smith in the second year. You have William Macklin entering his third year. And you have a ton of cap space to do whatever you want. And that doesn't mean Mike Greer should not be, do not go out and sign 35-year-old guys or 30-year-old guys to 8-year deals and stuff. You still need to be smart, right? But just the injection of talent that is about ready to continue to enter into the fray here, the Sharks should be much better next year. And you've already seen them play really fun, competitive hockey. And yes, you have weekends like the Sharks had a couple weekends ago when they lost, they get blown out by the Rangers and they lose, 14-2 basically in 2 combined games. Yes, you still have those occasionally. But I just think between Celebrini and Smith, they're going to be dragging this team to more wins because they're just that good, right? And again, I don't think, I'm not projecting the Sharks to make the playoffs next year, but why can't they make that Ducks type of jump, right? The Ducks had kind of got it started on the rebuild a couple years earlier. And you're seeing this year, right, with Leo Carlsson, Cutter Gauthier, and, they have their goalie of the future in Dostal. Like this, that team is going to be picking 8th or 9th this year in the draft. They've been very competitive throughout the season. Yes, they've had some down moments and stuff, but that's a team that is, taking that next leap into their fun and frisky phase. I'd argue, would you take Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini, or would you rather have Leo Carlsson and Cutter Gauthier and Mason? Like, I'm taking Celebrini and Smith because I think Celebrini and Smith are better players. Like, I loved Leo Carlsson in the draft. Like, I would have been very happy to have Leo Carlsson. But I think you can, look at what Will Smith's impact right now and look at Leo Carlsson's impact. I think it's fair to say right now, Will Smith's a better player, and not just in points. And, I think for Leo Carlsson, it was always going to be a little bit of a longer runway for him as he gets used. But, if not, it's really close, right? And the Ducks don't have anybody like Macklin Celebrini, I think for the Sharks, right? I do think they have, and Mike Greer said it, right? It is time to start building. This is it. This is the end of the trading everyone off. It is time to start building. So don't be surprised when, he goes out this offseason. He's smart. He's not, again, Mike Greer's not just going to sign some, 31-year-old defenseman to a bajillion dollars unless this guy can be that kind of, top end piece, right? I don't think Mike Greer is going to do that. And we have to give him the benefit of the doubt. Yes, he made some mistakes, 100%, right? Barclay Goodrow, right? The Fabian Zetterlund trade, not looking so hot right now. But again, we felt the same way after the Timo Meier trade. What is Mike Greer doing? That trade looks much better now, right? We still have the second round pick. Let the Sharks use that second round pick to go get an NHL player, right? Again, it's still early in that trade. I'm not ready to write off that trade as a bad trade yet. But Mike Greer, he's been very smart with his moves, with his signings. Tyler Toffoli, 100% a home run, right? Easily the best offseason move the Sharks made. Getting NHL or getting high quality AHL players for the Barracuda to have their young guys learn and develop. Do you think Colin Graf would be this player he is right now if he didn't play with Andrew Podorowski? Even going out and signing Colin Graf, right? Alex Wenberg. It's been a great signing for the Sharks. Yes. Some of the pieces that they've got, and some of the returns and stuff like that, maybe, Mike Hoffman or whatever. Mikael Granlund, great trade. Great. You took a guy who was, basically going to be, a cap casualty, bought out. You let him rehabilitate his image. You got a first round pick for him. And if you want, you can maybe go re-sign him this offseason. So who knows? But the Sharks they will be much better next year. And I do think they'll be their fun and frisky phase. Because one, like I said, you have Celebrini and you have Smith, you have William Macklin, who have all shown flashes, if not sustained, excellence, right? That January 20th, day, right? That day kind of lives in Sharks. That's the game where everything clicked for Will Smith. And since then, both those guys have basically been point per game players. As an 18-year-old and a 19-year-old that just turned 20. Why don't this offseason you get a real puck moving defenseman? You have Askarov coming in. You go out and get another top 6 forward. Why can't Smith and Celebrini both be point per game players next season, and talking about maybe 85, 90 points for each of those guys? That sounds fun and frisky to me. So yes, I think the people are they're going to be bad forever. The Sharks going to be in for Gavin McKenna. I just think between Celebrini, Smith, and Askarov, there's just too much top end talent next season. And plus, whatever you do in the offseason, and we're going to spend next 2 months trying to figure out what the Sharks do this offseason. It's hard for me to, without major injuries, it's hard for me to see a world where the Sharks are just one of the worst teams in the league again next season. So, we've officially entered our fun and frisky phase. And I kind of think Celebrini's hat trick, the 9 points combined, that might be that moment. Just like that January 20th, right? We're all going to kind of remember that game against the Wild, or Celebrini and Smith put up 9 points combined. That might be the one where we're like, that's where they enter their fun frisky phase. That game, even though they lost, right? You lost 8-7 because your penalty kill between your penalty kill and Alexander Georgiev couldn't stop a nosebleed. But still, Celebrini and Smith put on a show. The Sharks are officially fun and frisky. So we are going to talk about Mario Ferraro's injury, as Shang Peng announced Ferraro done for the season. So we'll talk about what that means for the Sharks, what it means for the Barracuda, what it means for Mario Ferraro. We'll get to that here in just 1 second. There's nothing like the energy of a live game, whether it's catching a last-minute MLB showdown or soaking in the excitement of an NBA matchup. But finding great seats at a great price, that used to be a challenge until I started using Game Time. Game Time makes scoring last-minute tickets easier than ever. Prices actually drop as the events get closer. And with their all-in pricing, you can see the total cost upfront. No surprises at checkout. I've been keeping an eye on the Barracuda game on Saturday. Keeping an eye on with Game Time. It's great. I know exactly how much I'm going to be paying because if me and the boys, we want to go, right? You don't want to get hit with those surprise fees at the end. And I know where I'm going to be sitting. Great thing with them. And there's peace of mind, right? If they're, like I said, no surprise fees, the lowest price guarantee. I can book with total confidence. And I never have to worry about overpaying with Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, before we finish up, of course want to thank you guys for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. When you're done with this podcast, go check out the Locked On NHL game night. Every game, every night, until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL game night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. All right. Of course, Mario Ferraro, we kind of expected this, right? Ferraro blocking a shot, as Mario Ferraro does. Needed help getting off the ice. They, of course, just announced lower body injury. If it looks like a broken foot, it sounds like a broken foot. It's probably a broken foot. So you feel bad for Ferraro, right? Because the dude's been an absolute warrior. Everything the Sharks have asked him to do, he has done with the cheesy smile on his face, right? And, there is a world where if the Sharks are more patient with his development, like I think he's a much different player. But the dude tries hard. He plays hard every shift. Does he make mistakes? 100%. Ferraro's that type of player that always leaves you wanting a little bit more, but you can't say anything about his effort and what his sacrifice to this team, right? Almost like the poster boy of just like, since he got here, this team has just been so bad, and it's not all his fault, right? I've always said, right, Mario Ferraro, Sharks has too much too quickly of Mario Ferraro. But you do feel bad, like breaking your foot in a meaningless game here that you ended up losing. And with 4 games left, right, we kind of expected Ferraro to be out. And this is the same guy, right, who took a puck to the mouth, had like like the stitches and everything, and he's back out on the ice like 3 days later, like because he's a freaking lunatic. But I think though for the Sharks, right, you're looking at they have 5 healthy defensemen on the roster right now. It's not great, Bob. So between Ferraro, right, who's done for the season right now, you have Vlasic, Liljegren, Henry Thrun, Jack Thompson, and Lucas Carlson. We might see Jan Ruda back. Apparently, according to Shang, he is a little further ahead than Desharnais. We know Muka Madulin's done for the season. It's tough here. So we'll probably know. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody is en route from San Jose up to Edmonton right now. You look at, again, we kind of did this. We played this game not that long ago, but for actual like non-rostered players who are on a NHL contract, you have Jimmy Schultz, who I would expect would be the guy who's heading up to, if I had to guess. You have Jimmy Schultz, you have Luca Cagnoni, you have Jake Furlong. Those are basically your choices of guys who can play NHL games right now on the blue line for you. So I would assume Jimmy Schultz is going up, if even just to be safe, because the Sharks have 5 healthy defensemen right now. Last time I checked, you kind of want to play with 6. So we'll see what this means. Like, I assume the Sharks are going to try to just squeeze something out of Ruda and Desharnais at the end of the season here, because one, Jimmy Schultz is a huge piece of the Barracuda, right? He's their captain. He is their best defensive defenseman. Plays big minutes. Plays on the penalty kill. Like he plays a lot. I know the Barracuda are 1 point, like they're 1 point away from securing their playoff spot, and most likely should get it done this weekend. But still, like we saw this Barracuda team play really well on Wednesday night, right? And that's 1-0, playoff type of caliber game. And Jimmy Schultz was a huge part of that. And it would be nice to continue to kind of build some momentum into the playoffs, right? Because yes, the Sharks are the Barracuda are going to get some reinforcements between Thompson and Carlson, and Jimmy Schultz, and like they're going to get some reinforcements here, but it would be nice if you could let them play for like more than a game before you start ripping things apart here. And of course, the Sharks are always going to get first priority, right? Because they're the NHL team, and like the young players from the Barracuda, like the young defensemen, have been playing really well. Like Jake Furlong has really stepped up his game the second half of the season and become a really good defensive defenseman. Like kind of in that, I know he's the same number, right? But he does remind me a lot of Justin Braun. Not as good of a skater as Justin Braun. Like Justin Braun's an amazing skater, but still that same style, like where he's just really smooth. He's going to be in the right place at the right time. Just like some physicality to him. Axel Landon played really well. Heish, who, is on an AHL deal. Like he's played very well too. Former Saginaw Spirit, like last season. A lot of these guys have been playing really well, and that's good because if Carlson gets hurt or when any of your top guys get hurt, you feel confident that these guys are going to be able to, be able to kind of get into a situation where if they need to rely on some of their depth in the playoffs, they're not going to be at full on deer in the headlights. But back to Ferraro really quickly. I hope he gets better. He has all off season. We know the dude trains like a maniac, hanging out with Brett Burns. Like he learned a couple things about training. I wouldn't be surprised if he's back on the ice at some point, middle of the summer. And don't expect this to be a long-term thing with him. So get some rest, buddy. Enjoy being married for a little bit, as him and his wife eloped this offseason. But it was not off season. Sorry, it was during the Four Nations. So enjoy being married for a little bit, stay off your feet. And then we'll see you back at captain skates in September. So August, September. So that's gonna be it for me today, though. We'll be back. We'll actually be back tomorrow night or Friday night. So since the Sharks do play Friday night, we'll have that cover. Actually, the Sharks and the Barracuda play Friday night. So we will be covering both those games. We'll have an episode right after I think the Barracuda game starts later. So after that, we'll have a breakdown for you. So make sure you follow along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at My Fry Hole. Till tomorrow. Bye, friends.